Notes of Truth with Julie Carrick. Here on Morning Joy, where truth matters.
Welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm your host, Keith Downey, and we're going to be talking about a couple commandments and Father's Day. So I'll pass it on over to Julie Carrick, host of Notes of Truth. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning. I love that we are in the month of June and we have both the beauty of the Sacred Heart that we are focused in on and the beauty of this coming Sunday with Father's Day. And it made me think of a couple of commandments that we should be keeping if we are going to really honor our Father in heaven, as well as our Father here on earth. And the most important thing that a dad can do, if we're thinking about Father's Day and the importance of fatherhood, is that dad would honor the fourth commandment, which is to keep holy the Lord's Day. If we go back to the mid 60s, attendance at Sunday Mass was around 55% of all Catholics would go there every Sunday for Mass. And it has gone down. This is a very sad statistic, actually, 23%. Yikes. But when the fathers are the spiritual leaders, the number goes up to 44% right now. So there's a huge thing that if we see dads being the spiritual leader as they are supposed to be, a much higher percentage of people will be going to Mass. Oddly, and this was a very interesting thing when I was looking at this study. Oddly, if both parents go, but mom is the one who's asking everybody to go, and then dad's kind of like, well, yeah, let's go ahead and go, that percentage is only 33%. So even though both parents are going, it's looked at like dad is giving in, and therefore it's not quite as meaningful to the kids. But it's even worse when the father rarely or never attends Mass on Sunday, even if mom goes regularly. In this scenario, you know what the percentage is? 2% of their children become regular attendees in adulthood. That's a staggering 2%. 37 attended irregularly, and 60% stopped practicing their faith completely. It's staggering when we look at the importance of fatherhood. But again, much more hopeful is that statistic that says 44% of the children in the study continue practicing their faith when dad was the one who took them in leading the family to go to church on Sundays. So it takes us closer back to those mid 60s when we were at like 55%. But if your father is not honoring, and this is something kids could say, right? Not in a bad way, but in a good way. If your dad is not honoring the fourth commandment, which is to keep holy the Sabbath, why should we honor the fifth commandment, which is honor your father and mother? So this is kind of, I really enjoyed looking into this when I was thinking about Father's Day. But when dad is the one who sets the pace on Sunday, kids pay attention. Instead of looking at faith as a feminine interest or mom says to do it, the kids see it as something that a man practices, that there's a masculine strength that comes from this. And based on the decline in Mass attendance over the past 50 years, it's evident that men are not taking the lead in the spiritual guidance of their families. Meanwhile, things like, sports and entertainment, all this stuff that takes over on Sundays, right? Which may indicate where American men have been spending their extra time on Sunday mornings. It was a Swiss study that I was looking at. When fathers were the spiritual leaders in the home, again, we're looking at that 44% where children grow up to regularly practice their faith. And think of the potential. If we have dads that were intentional about their leadership, in that survey, the faithful fathers were just doing what came naturally to them. But knowing what we know, that when the dad takes the lead, imagine how different our world would be if God became that center focus again on Sunday. And dads, here's one way that you can keep holy the Lord's Day and show yourself the spiritual leader of your family. Make a family commitment to avoid all unnecessary work and distractions on Sunday. Plan your weekend around the Mass that you're going to attend, and then refrain from participating in things like the youth sports, adult sports, shopping, and other things that take you away from going to mass on Sunday. And one of the
Mm.
things that was very interesting, and part of this was when I was working on the book Savior and Sustenance, that idea of really staying faithful on Sunday and being a part of Mass, is that when we make the decision to ignore that beautiful commandment of keeping holy the Sabbath, if we do things like shopping or whatever, we're actually causing other people to also have to work on Sunday, because
Mm.
when we decide to go shopping on Sunday, somebody else has to be there to run the store. So if we could get into that practice of doing our things, Monday through Saturday, as far as our shopping, having our homes prepared for what we need for the weekend, we're not requiring somebody else to have to also give up their Sunday to work. And if you forget to buy milk on Saturday and you don't have any on Sunday, get creative. We can live a day without milk or whatever that item might be that we forgot to go and get at the store. Um, and when you tell your kids coach, and this is something that we noticed with our son, who actually was in Catholic school when he was little, their team, he was a baseball nut. And
Mm.
they're even at the Catholic school, they started pushing for us to have practices and tournament games on Sundays. And we had to step in and be the ones to say, you know what? Don't count on him. And he's your best catcher, but don't count on him because he's not
Mm.
going to be there. We have
Right.
to be able to really keep our perspective the way that it should be on Sunday. And when you tell your kids coach that they're not going to be showing up on Sunday, here's the thing: you're going to be evangelizing, and most likely you're going to also be irritating them because they don't want to hear it. But the evangelization that can happen when you say, I'm not going to bring my son or daughter to this sport, on a Sunday because we have family time. You get that opportunity to talk with them, and especially
Yeah.
as the dads, when the dads take that step and to say that they're really going to be the father, be that person that's going to lead this family in their faith life. um, and then it also gives you that incentive that if you're not going to take your kid to the ball game that they have to
Mm.
play in, what can you do with your child? What can you do with your young adult families? To really take Sunday as that day to say this belongs to the Lord. It belongs to us taking time and being family with each other and stepping away from the world. It's amazing, and observing the traditional approach to Sunday. And I'm bringing it up this week just because of it being Father's Day, but there's going to be three very obvious impacts when we do this. One, it's going to quiet your family down for one day each week,
Mm.
and the conversations and the time that you're going to have together as family is going to be so rich and so incredibly beautiful. Two, it's going to serve as a very virtuous example to others. Why are they, pulling back? What are they doing that's so important that
Mhm.
that we're seeing something in them? And three, and this is the most important, it's going to allow God to reign as King every Sunday in your family,
Mm.
and that beautiful heart of Christ that we are honoring so much during this month of June. And no coincidence that Father's Day is a part of this. We're going to really we're going to allow him that kingship again. So by taking the lead on the fourth commandment, you're going to give your kids a lot of reason to honor the commandment that says honor your father and mother, when we first honor God and keeping that day holy. And when they're adults, they will be more equipped to hand down that faith. That way we are rebuilding a culture. We are rebuilding a culture that rebuilds the Catholic Church in a way that was original. That we were called to take
Mm.
that day. We were called to give that honor to God. So maybe this year, let's make this Father's Day a double focus. That as we
Mm.
honor our Heavenly Father at Mass, our earthly fathers are honored as we love them and thank them for the gift of life and faith. And I have to tell you, tomorrow on We Sing Our Faith, it is a beautiful program of Father's music. We begin with the Lord's Prayer, and I'm going to be singing that tomorrow. And then the beautiful music of Kara Klein Obrey. She has this amazing song, Simply Father. You know, we look at the names of God. We look at how we speak to him as God, as, you know, these all of the different names, and yet that simple word, the simple name, Father. Father is such an endearing, beautiful way to look at God. And I understand that not everyone has had a perfect dad. I was very fortunate. I grew up with a daddy who he was intelligent and just brilliant when it came to his work as an engineer and some of the things that he has developed that have helped so many people. And yet he taught me the great gift of really balancing work time and family time. And he was the one that taught me to pray the rosary. He was the one that made sure our family went to mass. And I can tell you, out of 7 kids, you know, 7 of us, and when dad being the one who's the leader, every one of us is still practicing our faith. Every one of my siblings. And
Wow.
and we see it in our families, those families that, I mean, my husband was that example. He made sure he was the one that said, hey, we're going to mass and living our faith. And my 3 are living their faith. So for what that's worth. Yeah.
Oh, that is worth a lot. My goodness. Thank you so much, Julie. That's a great challenge for everybody to treat Sunday like it's Sunday again, because the secular world really pushes hard. Saturday, that's your rest day. And then Sunday is when you do all your chores before. It's probably why people don't like Mondays. I just realized, because they don't have that break. They don't have that, you know, stepping away from the world and focusing on God. Thank you once again, Julie, for bringing that to our attention. We can see you tomorrow and listen to us. We Sing Our Faith tomorrow at 9 a.m. Central right here. Thank you so much again, Julie. And that is the end of our first hour. Now, if you're listening to Catholic Spirit Radio, we've got something special right coming up next for you. But if you're listening to Guadalupe Radio Network, we're starting our very last day of our Share-a-thon, our summer Share-a-thon. So make sure to go to our social medias, Morning Joy, to catch up on maybe all of our shows, our other segments. There is no after-show Clubhouse today, but Monday we'll be back up and at it again. So if this is us parting ways, God bless. And you know what? Make it not only a joyful day, but make it a joyful weekend. We'll see you bright and early Monday morning, 6 a.m. Central, here on Morning Joy.
This has been Morning Joy, where truth matters, hosted by Keith Downey. Take some joy with you today. Visit grnonline.com/joy to listen again, share a segment, or answer the question of the day. That's grnonline.com/joy.